Okay, so on a lighter note, have you ever heard of the Gnostics?
What?
The Gnostics, with a G, or you could say the Gnostics. Except they wouldn't like that very much, I don't think. It comes from the Greek for knowledge or knowing, and they were a group of people who lived for, well, had a conversation going really amongst themselves for a few centuries. And they're still around. There's some modern day Gnostics. I don't know that there's an organic connection between the modern day ones and the ancient ones, because they weren't really a civilization. They were a conversation within civilization. It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy of life. And it's a philosophy of life that informs new thought in a way. We are not Gnostics in this teaching. We're also not Quakers, and we just got through with a month on a Quaker writer, Rufus Jones. But we take material from them. What we are, if you want to know, if anybody ever asks you, if anybody ever corners you, a friend or relative, and they say, what is this place, Creative Life, that you're going to, and what is its philosophy, you can say it's syncretic. And that'll send them scrambling to their phone to look that up. Or you could say our theology is panentheism. Panentheism. We're not pantheists, we're not theists, we're panentheists. In other words, the God of our understanding in this teaching is both all there is and greater than the sum of its parts. It is both transcendent and immanent, and it does this simultaneously. And how it's able to pull that off is by being infinite. The fact that it is everywhere all at once and is not spread thin at the edges. Well, the Gnostic worldview is kind of dualistic, has some features to it that we would consider unusual, I suppose, in the cosmology and the story of how everything rolls out. But it's got enough going for it that resonates with what we do in New Thought that I bring it up from time to time. And the last time I brought it up to you guys on a series of Sunday mornings was in 2009. So I thought, well, 15 years is long enough to go without a little Gnostic infusion. And it's October, which is a time of mystery and wonder, which for us in South Texas means the wind changes and it comes from the north, and that's very strange for us after all these months of heat and, the whole Halloween thing and all. So anyway, a little Gnosticism in the morning won't hurt. And one of the concepts that they had, and you got to understand they had lots of concepts and they didn't all agree amongst themselves. It was not at all a fundamentalist lockstep kind of teaching. It was an open conversation on the nature of things, which is always, when you're talking about God, a big ask. I mean, it's how do you wrap your mind around this? So you have theories, and you have metaphors, and you have illusions, and you have symbolism. And one of the features in Gnostic symbolism, Gnostic metaphor, was what they called the fullness, or Pleroma in the Greek, the fullness. God is a fullness. The law of God, as we would understand it in New Thought, is simply a function. It's a function of the fullness. But you don't obsess on the function of the fullness. It's just the natural way things have of being created and coming into form. Instead, in your spiritual practice, you dwell on the fullness. Now, what this sounds like to the modern ear is that we go to God not with a shopping list, but we go to God and we say, let me see myself more clearly in your light. Let me understand myself better in my daily doings, and in that understanding and that growing awareness will be everything I need. This is described in Christian scripture by the passage, seek you first the kingdom of God. You remember we did this just recently. Seek you first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. It does not say, it does not advise, seek you all these things, and out of all these things will be assembled a fullness. No, out of all these things will be assembled a pile of all these things. But you seek first the kingdom, or you'll recall a few weeks ago we introduced the term kindom, Kindom, which takes both the royalty aspect out of it and also the patriarchal aspect, the gendered aspect out of it. We're kin, we're family. The kingdom of God. Seek that context in which everything exists. And all these things beyond that specifically will be added. In other words, your daily needs will be met. You'll get your daily bread when you seek the fullness, when you experience the fullness, open yourself to the fullness. What are we doing most of the time until we hear this advice? We're practicing limitation, not fullness, emptiness. Or partial emptiness, or the possibility of emptiness, or maybe a slow leak. Maybe not emptiness altogether, but a slow leak of good, draining out the soles of our feet, you know. And when we begin to practice the fullness through meditation and prayer, the leak is stopped, the leak is healed, and the fullness begins to accumulate within ourselves. Fullness of what? Well, I'll give you an example. When you pray repeatedly, you develop conviction that prayer does something. We were talking about this in a couple of other forums online recently where, you know, people will say, well, it's just good luck. It's just a happy coincidence that everything worked out. Well, that's one way of looking at it. What that doesn't do is build traction, build agency behind any kind of practice. Because if you're going to have good luck, you can also have bad luck. You can also have other luck, okay? If there's going to be a happy coincidence, there can also be an unfortunate coincidence. If you're going to build conviction, you got to build conviction. That's on us to do. So we pray and we say, look, I manifested a result. Ernest Holmes used the term demonstration. He didn't make it up, but he used it heavily. It's a New Thought term. Demonstration for an answer to prayer, for a response of some kind. I demonstrated something through the movement of my mind, through the acceptance of some greater good. I demonstrated something. I did that. I participated in doing that. I didn't do all of that, but I did some of that. I did my part in that. I did my part in that. And now the next time you're faced with a need of some sort, you've got that conviction to build on. Well, last time I did this and something happened. Something worked. Maybe the sky didn't open up and my answer just fell at my feet, but I got relief. I got a break, you know? So I'm going to try that again. And I'm going to pick up where I left off. And if it's a long-term thing that I'm praying about, or as we call it, treating, as I'm treating about this long-term thing that I don't expect an immediate answer to because it's a process that I'm working in, I'm going to pick up each time where I left off in my prayer work. Rather than saying, well, since absolutely nothing has happened yet, let me go back to the start. I'm going to affirm and know that I'm picking up where I left off and that there has been development behind the scenes. We use very often to illustrate this point nature. Nature grows underground until it bursts through the soil. You plant the seed, you don't expect the thing immediately to break ground and boom, be a tree, you know? It takes a while. Although I was reading the other day about the world of competitive pumpkin growing. I didn't know there was a thing. There's competitive pumpkin growing. And they grow pumpkins the size of that piano. And they are not handsome things to look at. They're big, kind of sloppy looking, nasty old, and I can't imagine what they must taste like or how you dig them out the inside. Anyway, but they grow these things and they compete for weight and volume and so on. And they said in the world of competitive pumpkin growing, you can get a pumpkin to grow 60 pounds a day. 60 pounds a day. Holy mackerel. Yeah, you know? Well, sometimes things take off. Bamboo will do that. You know, bamboo will grow like crazy. But most things, there's a pace to it. There's a steady little pace to it. And you plant the seed, and you water it, and you give it a little sunlight, and you come back, Next day, day after that, maybe, I don't know, 5 days later or something, the thing's broke in the ground, and then another 10 days, and then another month, and so on. So you don't expect the thing to just shoot to the sky right away. You pick up where you left off. You do the same thing with raising children. You don't have a baby, and the next day it goes off to college, right? Okay, it's all right. You get to be a toddler for a while, then you get to, you go to school and you get to this, and you expect this, and you expect this in your work, and you expect this in everything that you do. There's a process in play here, an interior process that out pictures. But in your prayer work, if you pick up where you left off and you said it, even though my senses may not register any improvement on any front, I know that behind the scenes something is happening. I know that I'm making inroads in my acceptance of my greater good. I know this, I affirm it, so on. Then you build agency. And this is how we manage the vibration. The vibration. We're going to talk a little bit this month about vibratory life, vibratory creativity. Everything is a vibration. You remember when you were very young and you learned in school about atoms and how atoms clump together into molecules, and around a nucleus the electrons move and so on. Well, there's a vibration there. Everything is vibrating. Some of it is vibrating at a very slow rate, and it appears to have great density. And so that's where we look at material things, a chair you're sitting in, on the floor, and so on. We say, well, it may be moving, but I don't perceive it. And then other things like the air you're breathing is moving very quickly. It's got an atomic structure, every bit as dense as the chair you're sitting in. But it's vibrating at such a rate that the density thins itself out in a way. It speeds up. That's really all you can say about it, And if that's true in material form, from object to form to collection of things, the body you wear, and so on, then it's also true in the mental life. In the mental life, there's a rate of vibration. When you're depressed, when you're down and lonely and sad and pensive and looking back and all of this, it's like you slow down. Your metabolism reflects this. There's kind of a weight that comes there, sort of a heaviness, not a physical weight that you could measure on a scale, but there's there's just something kind of weighing on you. And when you have hope, when you have an exciting idea, somebody says, hey, guess what? Next week, let's do this, or it's, cool weather's coming, or something like that, or it's almost your birthday, or let's go out to eat, or something. All of a sudden, there's a lightness to you, How do you manage that continually in life? Because you can't always go out to eat, and it's not always your birthday, and there's not always, some immediate thing on the horizon that's of excitement to you. Sometimes we get fooled into thinking life is like that because maybe we're fortunate enough when we're little kids, they do up, everything for us and the holidays and all of this, and we think, oh, life is going to be like that when I grow up. And then, you get a little older and you start having to pay the bills for it, and you're the one that has to do the cooking and the decorating and the cleaning, and it loses some luster. Well, how do you recapture that? Here's the hope. Here's the hope. God, our spiritual resource. You always have that. If it's raining, you've got God. It's not a good day, you've got God. If people don't like you, if people are mad at you, if you blew it, if you made some terrible mistake, you still got God. And the God of my understanding, the God that I believe in, which is the only God I can talk about with any reasonable degree of security, has never judged anybody for anything. Doesn't look at us and say, well, you blew that one. No, because all it knows is that it's having an experience of itself by means of us. And all the quality of it is determined by us at the subjective level. And it has absolutely no bearing on the ultimate meaning of anything, except insofar as we say it does, for us. But in terms of the history of the world, no, it's how we call things to be. We are, our Gnostic friends would say, an emanation of God. Every one of us is an emanation of God. E-M-A-N-A-T-I-O-N. Emanation. I gave a series of talks one time on Emma Hopkins, and I called it Emanation with two M's, which is clever, isn't it? But it goes to the same thing, right? So we emanate from God. What is an emanation? It's got a number of dictionary definitions, but the one that I seized onto was it's like a flow. That's part of the root of the word, out of the Greek. It's like a flow. So we flow from God. Our thoughts flow from God. Our experiences flow from God. The body that we wear was designed by a mind that is not private and local to us. It's not our personal mind. We didn't get out the drawing board and say, 2 legs would work, with 2 ears, it's good, you can hear in stereo. No, something else came up with all of this. Something else came up with all of this, and it created us, but not in a cookie cutter kind of way. It created us all with, our own style and our own way of being, and that's great. And we've emanated. And where did we emanate to? We emanated to this planet, which is a good thing, because it's got air we can breathe and water we can drink if we don't pollute it so much. And this world really works for us. And on this world, you can plant a seed and grow stuff. And eat what you grow, and isn't that nice? And you can rattle around with other people and get to know them and hang out and just have a wonderful time and go enjoy a sunset and so on and so forth, and all the things that we've been doing, and that's the emanation. We can even decide that we have big purposes and important things to accomplish, and we can do that. And we can build skyscrapers and get all caught up in the seriousness of things and study things and think that's really the key to everything, and it is. And everybody has their own hobbies and their own interests, and they fall into these things. And Jeffrey and I were talking the other day. He's saying, now that I'm playing the guitar more, I'm doing this and this, and I'm making some, he's like, I watched him, you've watched him. We both of us live publicly on this stage with you, If I've read a new book or tripped off on some new thing, guess who hears about it? You do. Okay, Jeffrey picks up a new instrument to play. What is that thing, that plastic thing that you play sometimes at Christmas that you blow the melodica? Yeah, okay, the melodica. When you took up the melodica, now maybe you took it up before I ever knew you, but I don't think so. I think you took it up here, Huh? Mary gave it to you. Okay, yeah, and you took up the melodic, and it's like, whoa. And all of a sudden, to him, I'm going to say, the whole world was a melodica. And then the guitar, and the whole world is, everything else is like in black and white, but the guitar is in living color, right? And this is how we are with the things that interest us. We fall into these things. And that's how we meet our mental emanation in the world. That's how we meet. It's like I'd tell you what it's like. I don't know that this is true, but I like the image. We send stuff on ahead. We send stuff on ahead. We say, I'm going to incarnate on earth, and one day I'm going to be 20, 30, 50, 80 years old, and I'm going to want to be interested in such and such, and so I'm sending this on ahead, and it's going to be like in how in old suspense movies, stuff was always in a locker at the bus station, right? And the key was missing, and you had to go find the key to unlock, and there's the mysterious thing that solves everything, So we send stuff on ahead into the world for us. And it meets us when we're ready for it. Meets us when we're ready for it. And we come full circle then. Out of the wishing and willing and hoping and longing, we come full circle into the doing and achieving and creating and inspiring. So we are emanations. From God we emanate. We flow into this world. And our relationship with the source of our own being is vastly different than what we thought it was. Vastly different, I'll warrant, than what we were taught it was. It's not about having to worship God and ceaselessly so that God doesn't get its feelings hurt. What kind of a God would that be anyway? If it got its feelings hurt, if we lifted up from worshiping it for a moment, peered up at it, dared to look it in the face, what kind of a God would that be? A scolding, shaming sort of a thing? Well, that's why more people aren't interested really in exploring this. We've talked about that before. People say, oh, God's will. Nobody wants to really, if you get honest about it, nobody really wants to know what God's will is for them. It sounds threatening. It sounds fearful. He can't possibly be something I'll enjoy. Let's put it that way, But yeah, it is. Because the will of Spirit for you is the way of Spirit for you. It's the Tao of Spirit for each of us. And so we emanate out into form, we flow into form. And all we have to do is notice this, recognize this. That is the key in all of New Thought teaching. All that's asked of us to do, the reason that we go through this with the classes and the workshops and me, is to become aware. To become aware of who we are. Become aware of who we are. What our motives are, intentions, ambitions, desires, and so forth. Become aware of that. Why do I want what I want? Where does that come from? What do I think it will lead me to? And why do I think I ever left there? Why do I ever think that I left the place that something good is going to lead me back to? You follow what I'm saying? Why do we ever think there's a journey that has to be undertaken, really, to get back to the garden, as we talked about 3 months ago, about the paradise, the Eden experience? Why do we think we left that? Because it's just a trick of the light. We never did. It's right here around us, with these angels around us. So in the week to come, what I invite you to do, we're going to have more Gnosticism. I'm going to introduce a different concept to you each week. We're going to look at the Gospel of Judas. We're going to look at the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Gospel of Philip, Gospel of Thomas. These are all part of the Gnostic, Gospels, the Gnostic lore. Much of this was rumored to be, or there were snippets of it, and then in the 1940s, some scrolls were found in Egypt. One of the people that championed their publication and their study was Carl Jung. And you've heard of Carl Jung. He was way into this with his Bollingen Foundation. I'm going to introduce different concepts to you each week about this, because I think they can enhance our spiritual life. People hear a term and hear a concept, and it's like, whoa, I can use that. That's new and different. And some of these are very new and different. But what I invite you to do in the week to come is to consider that you are a vibratory exercise. You hear it said that you are Spirit's expression of itself in this world at this time by means of you, and this is true. Now what I want you to consider is a nature, a quality of that beingness is as a vibratory exercise. That is to say that you're vibrating at a certain rate, and you can adjust it in the same way that you can think about an old resentment and make your body hurt. Make your body a little sick over it. Can't you? We could do that together as a meditation exercise from hell, is what we could do. Let's all close our eyes and call up some experience of shame and resentment and fear and go there and notice the metabolic. We're not going to do that. Never in a million years. But we do it on our own, don't we? And so if you can do that, can you reverse engineer it? Of course. Imagine yourself now managing the vibratory experience of your life, excitement about something, a thrill of hope. That's in that one of the Christmas songs, a thrill of hope. The weary world rejoices. Are you ready for a thrill of hope? You don't have to wait till Christmas. Christmas might not even do it for you, Might not even float your boat. But a thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices. How about it? I'm up for it. Are you? Okay. How do we do that? We manufacture it. How would it be? How would it be if this problem left my life and was replaced by some great good? How would it be? How would it be? Is it all right with me? We'll talk more about that in the weeks to come, about it being all right with us. But just manage this week. Try to manage your experience of the vibration that you are, and notice how you cheer yourself up, and notice that when you do, you shine more brightly for all the people around you. And people want to stand by you so they can see themselves more clearly in your light. And that's how the healing of the world occurs. So let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere radiant, everywhere manifesting, doing all the things we say it is, and so much more than we can possibly comprehend. In this one life, in this one source is everything we need. The kingdom of spirit surrounds us. These people here, like the truckers in the song, like the little kids, only have a penny between us. That's the rainbow of life right there. That's the highest and best in human consciousness coming forward, where one hand washes the other, where we have each other's highest interests in mind. We look out for one another, take care of one another, act like family, because we are, with one divine parent. And so it's easy now to feel at home in this skin, in this life, with these others. It's easy now to let go of what no longer works, what perhaps never has. It's easy now. And for this knowing, for this manifestation in form, greater and greater joy, happiness and abundance everywhere we turn. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now, calling it done, and so it is.
So everything else is in the email. If you're not getting it, you know how to get it, info@creativelife.org. So as we come up to giving time, do we have anybody here for the first time? Okay, so welcome back, everyone. So now I invite you to take your gift in your hand, physically or mentally, and just remember that we truly, truly appreciate. I know I say this every week, but we really do appreciate everything that you do for us and all that you give to us. So please say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
My last responsibility is my favorite responsibility. I get to do a treatment. I get to remind you that it is all sacred all the time, but there are moments where we consciously enter that sacred, such as now, where we recognize our unity full on and know who we are, so that we can bring that awareness back with us into everything else that we do. So know with me that there is one power, one presence, one life, one love. That I live that life, that I am that presence, that I am a channel for that power and a channel for that love, as I know each and every one of you are. That you are brilliant lights, that you shine in such a way that people can stand near you and see themselves more clearly. And more importantly, see themselves more lovingly. We are called to love one another. We are called to love ourselves. We are called to be that light in which other people see the path to loving themselves and loving each other. We truly are the kingdom of the one, the kingdom of the divine. And that we embrace one another in that love, in that presence, that we look in each other's eyes and see the divine looking back at us. And when we do that, miracles happen. Miracles happen. Because each and every one of us is an eminent miracle. And we are that channel for those miracles into this material plane. And I know this with all of the knowingness, with all of the faith, with all of the belief, and with all of the love, and all of the gratitude in my being. I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am, and a community that comes together to remind each other who that is, who we are. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for our ministers, our practitioners, our musicians. I am grateful for the technology that allows this to send this out across the ethers. And I am grateful because it's just another word for love. And it feels good. And I release my word into law, knowing it is done. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.